This is 91. This is 91.3 FM, WCUW in Worcester, Massachusetts, the Dr.Chris Radio Horror Show, and we're talking with David, the developer behind Freddy vs. Jason from Flashback Entertainment, a new game that Pamela and I saw recently online, and looks quite interesting as it's in the vein of the old school Nintendo Entertainment System that Pamela and I are very familiar with. Thank you for coming on the show with us, David.
Oh, thank you for having me.
So I'm a huge Nintendo enthusiast, and I did play the game that this game is based off of, the Friday the 13th for Nintendo. What made you want to go back in and kind of give this one a tune-up?
Okay, well, the thing is, not many people I knew at the time really liked the game Friday the 13th for the NES.
No.
I guess because everybody just said it was so hard. And I enjoyed it, honestly. And I was just thinking about how I could spruce it up, make it better. And that's where I started thinking to myself, I wonder if I could replace the main character with Freddy and then have a Freddy vs. Jason theme. And so that's basically what I did. I put Freddy in there, and instead of choosing between the 6 camp counselors that are originally in the game, you get to choose from basically 6 areas that Freddy is in. So
That's pretty sweet. And instead of throwing random things, you throw Freddy's knife blades off his hands, which is an interesting touch.
Yes. The thing about that was not only did the pitchfork be the ideal weapon to turn into Freddy's actual glove, but it's also one of the most strongest weapons in the game. So it actually makes the game easier than the original Friday the 13th. I know there were a lot of criticism about the first Friday the 13th game and how a lot of people didn't want to play the new game because they felt it might be just as hard as the original, but it's actually easier because of that modification. So you actually start the game with one of the most strongest weapons in the game.
Do you take the coding from the game in order to recreate all the settings and make it look just like Friday the 13th, but with the Freddy from the Nightmare on Elm Street game?
Actually, what I did was I took the actual ROM, the NES ROM of Friday the 13th, and then I modified the graphics of the counselors. And to be honest, I almost gave up on the project because I just couldn't. I'm very critical of my work, and I just didn't think I could get Freddy to look right the way I wanted him to. And I almost said, you know what, I'm not going to be able to make this game. I almost stopped, but then I ended up going back to it, and I'm actually glad I finished it because it actually became more successful than I ever thought.
How many levels are in the game?
There's 3 levels, just like the original one, Friday the 13th. It's the first level, you're fighting Jason, and it's all 3 the same thing with Jason just getting progressively harder in each phase. And then there's a little story. The story's been altered as well, and it's like when you get to the 3rd stage, you're actually going into Jason's mind and going into his dreams where you can kill him.
Are you gonna make a sequel where you get to play as Jason going after Freddy?
I actually did. There is a gentleman who goes by the name Raven Homicide. He contacted me out of the blue. He is a huge Jason and Freddy fan, and he contacted me about, possibly making this into a cartridge game because he actually wants to go, I believe he's going to some kind of convention in February, and Robert England's supposed to actually be there, and he's going to actually try to get him to sign the copy of the game that he gets. And when he contacted me about that, he was like, "Oh, it'd be really cool if we could vice versa, swap them up." So I said, "You know what? Since you're on board for this, that gives me the motivation I need." So I made another tack, and I called it Jason vs. Freddy, and it puts you in control of Jason instead of Freddy on this one, and it turns Jason as the villain into Freddy. So.
How do you get over any copyright entanglement when it comes to making games like this?
I don't know anything about the copyright stuff, to be honest with you, because I actually don't make a profit at all. This is all free for me. I don't make a dime, to be honest. But I do work for a company called Flashback Entertainment, and they actually make the cartridges. They sell the cartridges, but I see none of that money. So I mean, I'm not making a profit off of it. So
your hands are clean of any legal entanglements that might come up from Warner Brothers.
That's exactly right. That's exactly right, my friend.
Or Nintendo. Because Nintendo got really...
Nintendo will come knocking on my doorstep, knocking on my door telling me, "Hey, you owe us a lot of money. We're going to sue you." But I don't think I'll have to worry about that because I haven't made a dime off of any of these games.
Because Nintendo came after that company Tenko or something like that. They put out the original Tetris, and then Nintendo had to bottom out after they sued the pants off of them, and they crippled the company. And then Nintendo acquired the Tetris game because of that, along with several other games. Because the lawsuit was so big. That was back in the 80s, and I don't know of how Nintendo's done recently. I mean, I don't see a lot of GameCube or Nintendo 64 or even Wii, nostalgia games being made. I see them all being made for Nintendo, Super Nintendo, and the Sega Genesis. So
that's it. They're all on the older systems. In my opinion, they're easier to hack. We have all these tools available to really anybody. Anybody can get into it. And I know that they did sell the Nintendo games and the Super Nintendo on the virtual console on the Wii. So they are, I guess, still making money in that sense. But as far as the actual gaming cartridges themselves, we know they no longer manufacture those.
No.
And why was there any particular reason you guys decided to go that way and do the cartridges for kind of the nostalgia fans who still have their NES consoles or the Retron 5? I have both, but was there any reason you did that versus just doing download games that you could get on like Wii U or Wii U
or Steam?
Well, I actually started it by just altering the ROM. And then you could download it for free online, and then you could just play it on an emulator because that's how I started playing hacks. And over time, people started coming to me that actually made the game cartridges themselves and said, "Hey, is it okay if we take some of your hacks?" Because I think, could be wrong about this, but I probably made about 10 to 12 hacks, and I probably translated about 10 to 12 games, and different people were just coming to me asking me, "Is it okay if we use this? Put it on cartridges?" And I was fine with that. I was like, "Hey, I honestly didn't see why they needed my permission anyway, since I actually ripped off other games. I didn't see why they needed to ask me, but they did, and I appreciate that. But that's basically how they became on cartridges.
What's the now? You also developed the Castlevania game?
Yeah, what it is it's a Castlevania hack. What it is it's God of War.
There's like 4 of them on their website.
Oh, see, I didn't actually develop any of those Castlevania games.
Okay.
Those games were made by various hackers, and I take it that Flashback got permission from each one of the authors to publish those games. Now, I didn't make any of those games, but the only Castlevania hack I've done is of God of War 2. But that one is one that will probably not go on the Flashback site because of the fact that the God of War franchise is still going pretty damn strong, and that would probably be a copyright issue.
So is Castlevania, though. I mean, Castlevania 2, Castlevania Lord of Shadows 2 came out this past February.
That is, yeah, you're right. I agree. You're right. It sure did. And you know what? That will, once again, my hands are clean of that. I don't make. I didn't make any of those Castlevania games. So.
It is very interesting how the games are able to be made and put out, and then you can play them on the Nintendo. That's, I guess, the the big nostalgia factor of it. And I've seen games from this company put out on review on the Angry Video Game Nerds website.
Really? Oh.
The Mario games. It was one or two of the Mario. It was a Mario game and it was a Link game that they reviewed on the Angry Video Game Nerd.
Oh, okay. Wow. Yeah. See, I do keep up with the Angry Video Game Nerd and follow him, and yeah, I think I do remember him playing a few of the hack games. I didn't think he actually played them. I thought he had like his friend Mike or one of them review the game. I wasn't sure.
Yeah, like Castlevania Prelude of Darkness has Gabriel Belmont as Dracula sitting in the Game of Thrones throne.
Yeah, you know, I actually saw that cover art, and but to be honest, I couldn't even tell you what that game's about. I don't know. I don't know anything about that Castlevania game. The only Castlevania game that I know a lot about that was an actual hack was Orchestra of Despair. That is by far the best Castlevania hack I've ever seen. And a lot of props go to those people, but I didn't do it.
What was your Castlevania God of War 2 game about?
What it was about is, see, I made another I made another God of War hack earlier this year, and I used Rygar, the game Rygar, as the basis because I wanted to use Castlevania originally, but I didn't quite have the hacking skills I needed at the time to make that a possibility. So I made the game out of Rygar, and it put Kratos in the role of basically when anybody that follows the God of War franchise will know that, you know, Kratos gave himself to Ares, he got on his knees, told him he would give him his life, and, you know, he immediately made him a slave. Well, I made this game take place like the moment that Kratos asked Ares to, you know, deliver him from his enemies, and he will worship him, and he took Kratos at that moment in time out of that, you know, situation he was in, and immediately put him in a test, a trial, to prove himself to be worthy of being saved. And that's basically what the first God of War was about. And I mean, I thought it was pretty good. I wasn't very happy about not getting to use Castlevania. But that game got a lot of success. It got a lot of good reviews about it. And when I did have the hacking potential to hack Castlevania, I went ahead and started the second one, which I think turned out a whole lot better. And that game is modeled after the first Castlevania. It plays like the first Castlevania. He's got his power-ups. They've all been altered. The levels have been altered. The graphics have been altered. Looks like a completely new game. And in this game, what he is doing is Zeus has been kidnapped and taken prisoner by evil magicians, and Kratos has to go battle them
Zeus has been kidnapped by magicians?
By magicians. I know, it sounds weird, and I wanted to put Zeus, honestly, as the boss, and you fight against Zeus because, that's what you're actually doing in the God of War PlayStation 2 game, but I just wasn't able to, it just didn't work out. I was trying different things, and it ended up working out to where I just ended up going with a magician on that. So I thought I'd just deviate from the story a little bit, say, hey, magic overpowered Olympus, this dark magic, and Kratos has to find his way. It was just a spur of the moment thing, but I don't know. I think it came together kind of nice.
One thing I never understood about the God of War games is Kratos can't be too broken up over his wife and daughter being killed when you have in the beginning of the game in each and at least some point, and it's in the very beginning of the first God of War, and it's at some point in the other God of War games, you get a button mash sex game to make the concubines you're in bed with come faster.
Exactly.
So,
Every game's got that sex game, and my fiance was like, you know what, you should put that into the game, but there was no way I could put it into the Nintendo game, so I didn't get to do that. But I do see your point. How can he be grieving for his wife and his child when he's doing all that?
just something don't seem right about that.
You're right. I guess they just put that in there for a fun factor. I guess I don't know, but I just really love the gameplay of God of War. It was always. I'm an old school gamer. I like Nintendo, that's my favorite system. Like Super Nintendo, Sega. I play all those games. I'm not really into the newer games, although I do play them, but I'm not as into them as I am the older games. But God of War has got to be the exception to that.
You should make a King Kong versus Godzilla game using the old Godzilla codes from the old Nintendo game.
Yeah, the old Nintendo game Godzilla. That could be a possibility. I don't know. I have to look at that game. The only thing about that is I don't remember that game being that fun though. That's the only drawback.
Well, neither was Freddy or neither was Nightmare on Elm Street or Friday the 13th. Yeah, those games are notoriously bad.
It's just so much walking.
This is true. And they both suffer from the same thing. They have that LJN stamp of crap right on top of them. But I personally liked Friday the 13th. It was one of those games that I could sit around at a friend's house and they would all watch me play this game and beat it and be like, I don't know how you're beating this game. This game is ridiculously hard. There's no way you can win it. It's unfair, and I just loved it. And I guess that's what inspired me to make that game, even though most people do think that game is ridiculously hard and terrible.
You should make a Freddy vs. Jason vs. Ash game based on the Wildstorm comic book that was supposed to be the sequel to Freddy vs. Jason the movie, and just use your same codes, and then just put a sprite Ash figure in there, so you can choose between, like, say, Freddy or Ash to fight Jason, and then you can have the actual Freddy vs. Jason vs. Ash game.
That's a good idea. That's a very good idea. In fact, that's doable. I think that'd be a good idea. It's something that I could work on.
Combine the two. Make it like half the game. Okay, the whole game you play as Ash, which nobody would have a problem with, and you collect all of Freddy's bones. So you take all the code, the data code that allows you in the game to collect all of Freddy's bones, because that was the plot line of the Nightmare on Elm Street game, and you defeat Freddy, and then you go after Jason in Crystal Lake.
See, I'm still working on the hacking of Nightmare on Elm Street. I've taken a look at the code. It's a little unusual. It's different than the normal NES code. Some games are compressed, and some games are just, they're right there. They're easy to decode, easy to hack, if you will. But something about this Friday the 13th one, it's just a little different. So I need a little bit more time in working with that code.
I think you need to be sleep deprived.
I know, I agree.
Jokes.
My fiance will tell you, she spent many nights looking at me going, are you going to get off of that computer? And I'm like, look, I'll be there in 1 second. I'm almost finished. And 4 hours later, I'm still sitting there.
Eyes hanging down. I need sleep. No sleep for you. You're in my nightmare now. And then you start hearing like some banging of some knives. I wish I had a knife to play in the back. I don't have a knife or anything. What do I have? I have keys. I had no knife. I wish I had a knife with me and make sound effects with.
I've spent many a night sitting in front of that computer. What happened was, I did all the ideas I wanted to kind of do. I did my God of War game. I did my God of War 2 game. All that's, taken care of. So I just started going through just boards, like in forums, to see what kind of hacks people would want to play. I saw someone sent a request and said, can you turn any shooter, doesn't matter which one, into Captain America, the Winter Soldier? So I took that as a personal challenge, and I actually just finished that maybe a month ago.
That's awesome. That still fits in. We talk about comic books and stuff all the time, too.
Yeah, that'd be cool. I mean, honestly, I think you should probably take Captain America and the Avengers, the Sega Genesis Super Nintendo game, and alter... you do get to play as most of the Avengers that are in the movie. I don't know, maybe add an extra character to, like, add the Black Widow and the Hulk and Thor, because in the original game, the only 4 Avengers you get to play are Cap, Hawkeye, Iron Man, and the Vision, which, of course, the Vision will be in the Ultron movie, but, there's some things you can alter here or there to make it look like the film.
You're right. It is pretty easy to do that.
Excuse me. Yeah, or like the X-Men game. That's pretty good by itself. But if you wanted to, alter it to a way to look like the animated series or something, like they just announced there's a comic book coming out to continue the X-Men animated series from Fox. I thought that was kind of cool. Yeah, they're actually making... Everyone else is doing comic books based on canceled properties or finished properties and picking them up. Marvel said, you know what, we don't have one. They're going to be making an actual Fox animated series continuation comic book, and fans went nuts. Because it's going to be drawn in the art style of the animated show and picking up where the events of the show left off.
Okay, wow. That's good to know. I didn't realize that. So I'm not a very big comic book enthusiast, but I do like comics themselves. I mean, not like the Marvel comics.
Yeah.
I'm more fond of DC, but that's just my personal preference.
But yeah, I mean, I guess you could do like an animated, X-Men kind of style game.
Yeah. That could be doable. I would definitely steer away from the X-Men on the Nintendo world. Definitely.
Ugh.
That might have been an LJ hit. I don't know.
Yes.
It was. Okay, I was thinking to say, I thought it might have been, and are you going to say, Angry Video Game Nerd reviews that?
LJM president died, I think, a year or so ago.
Oh, I didn't know that either.
He admitted, before he died, that they made crap games.
Wow, they were just trying to push a product out there and get paid.
Like that Spider-Man game. That was the Spider-Man and the Sinister Six. I picked that up because I was all psyched when I heard about the movie, and then I started to play the game, and it was just endless, unplayable, you fell in the hole you can't get out of nonsense, where you just have to reset the game. It was the worst.
Spider-Man Return of the Sinister Six, yeah.
Yep.
That game, I would always play. I beat Electro, and then by the time I beat Electro and made it to the second level, I was almost completely dead. I was almost out of energy, out of life, and I never got far on that game.
If LJM made it, it was bad. If Activision made it, it was great, because Activision made, again, the aforementioned X-Men game for Sega, the Sega Genesis one. They made the Spider-Man game for Sega Genesis. They made Maximum Carnage for Sega Genesis. But, however, Maximum Carnage is very much like what you're doing. Maximum Carnage was a clone of Streets of Rage, because all of the bad guys that Spider-Man or Venom kept beating up in between the boss battles, which were just like random crooks on the street, they were colored, changed random bad guys from Streets of Rage, and the fighting style was exactly the same. I mean, you couldn't do combos. Well, you couldn't really do a lot of combos in Streets of Rage, but the fighting mechanics of what Spider-Man and Venom could do were very similar to a very skinny, taller character that was really fast, or a big, bulkier character, which was like Venom. And the all of the thugs that kept appearing were, random citizens attacking Spider-Man or Venom throughout the game, like they were in Streets of Rage. But in Streets of Rage, they were part of gangs. In the Maximum Carnage game, they were tied into the storyline that they were all New Yorkers gone crazy and on a killing spree due to one of the characters in the storyline called Shriek made people go mad and want to kill each other. But yeah, Maximum Carnage was pretty much just a clone of Streets of Rage in a lot of ways, just with Spider-Man characters.
And it did work out well. It worked out very well, even with just talent swapping characters and the monotonous characters over and over. You throw in a big boss battle midway, and at the end, and give a good button masher, it worked out. It worked out very well.
Definitely.
Those are my kind of games. I actually Final Fight would have to be my weakness on the fast-scrolling fighting games. That one takes the cake. I love it.
Maybe it was Final Fight, but it might have been Streets of Rage. Again, whoever made the Spider-Man Venom Maximum Carnage made Final Fight or Streets of Rage. It's the same company.
I know Capcom made Final Fight, but I'm not sure about Streets of Rage.
Then it was Streets of Rage, because again, in one of those two games, the random thousands of bad guys that you just beat up the entire game, they did the exact same stupid, attacks and everything else. Yeah. Basically, they threw the same weapons. It was the exact game, except with Spider-Man characters thrown in for boss battles and everything else. So the game can be found at shopflashbackgames.com.
That's right.
And do you get like a special box or instruction manual with it, like old school Nintendo days?
You can actually buy it either or. No, there are games on there that you can buy the cartridge only. They come with the cartridge, and then they come with the case, the actual cartridge case from the old days. Or you can get them in a box set, which comes with a box, the cartridge, and the case. I'm not sure if any of them come with manuals. I doubt they come with manuals.
Okay.
Because I take it this is a team of people. They focus on making the cards, making the repros. But yep, you can go on that site. The Freddy vs. Jason game, I got a request for that. It seemed like a few days ago, it just started blowing up all over the internet.
It did.
And it blew my mind because it's not one of the bigger hacks that I've ever made. I've made bigger hacks. Like I've made a full conversion Blaster Master into a Metroid game, and I thought, okay, that one's gonna really take off. I changed everything about that game. I changed backgrounds, I changed level layouts, weapons, enemies, all the way through. And the Freddy vs. Jason hack was basically just, take Freddy, put him as the main character, alter some of the gameplay elements, make it a little bit easier so it'll be more fun with people that didn't think it was that much of that fun of a game in the past, and, let that be the end of it. So this wasn't a particularly hard hack or anything. It wasn't immaculate, and for it to just blow up like it did, it's just crazy. And on Flashback, the guy from Flashback, Ryan Williams, he put a few out, on tests to see how they would sell, and he ended up selling out. And when he sold out, he told me, he said, "Wow, I already sold out, and I've already got numerous emails coming in asking, about this game and wanting to buy this game. And I was like, okay, good, because that's all I want to do. My main goal, and when I have the games in the ROM, it's not to make money, and it's not for anything other than I just enjoy doing it, and I just like making people happy with the games that I make. I just want people to enjoy playing old games that have a new little twist on them, and because I know when I first started playing the emulators and the ROMs, and I started finding all these little hack games, it brought me joy, because I'm like, hey, it's a new game. I love finding those new games, and for me to be able to, pay that back to other people in the community, that's why I do what I do.
That's definitely awesome. And this one, it kind of seems like it was in the right place at the right time, too, because there is talk about a new Freddy movie next year, and they're doing the TV show that's like an origin story. Chronicles of... Oh, Friday the 13th. Oh, you're right. I'm sorry. Chronicles of Crystal Lake. You're right. It was that.
That's right.
Yeah.
Chronicles of Crystal Lake. I've heard of, yes.
It's supposed to be like Bates Motel, kind of, in the way that it's like, it's going to be Pamela's origin story leading up to Jason becoming who we know him to be. And then the new Friday the 13th movie is supposed to be coming out in November 13th, 2015. It's supposed to be a found footage movie. That has definitely been confirmed.
That's going to be crappy, but
yeah,
that sounds crappy, but I don't know. I'll probably watch it.
You'll make tons of money its opening weekend, and everyone will be like, this is crap!
I have to see it.
I can make a Friday the 13th movie with $10 million. Give me $10 million. Give me $1 million. I'll make a Friday the 13th movie with no problem. And I'll hire Kane Hodder to be Jason again.
Yeah.
Well, hey, David, thank you very much for coming on the show with us and talking about your Freddy versus Jason unique game.
Thank you for having me on the show. I really appreciate that. And, as you and everybody out there now knows, you can actually go on Flashback Entertainment's website and purchase the game. It's only $40, and if you go through Facebook and like the page, you actually get 10% off.
Cool.
So, yep.
Awesome.
And like I said, I don't get any of the money. I'm just the maker of the game. They actually coded onto the cartridges. What they do was more than what I do. So in my opinion, they deserve the money because they're the ones buying all the resources to put these out there for people.
Awesome. Well, again, thank you very much, David.